Hello, 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 hello. Welcome everybody into the Work and Play replay. This is now tuning in from Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn, all of the platforms. And you guys are all here with us live with Miss Curnesia Bogans. What's up, Miss Curnesia?
Hey girl, hey girl, hey.
Hey, girl. How are you doing this week?
Huh?
I said, how are you doing this week?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. I'm screaming at Curnesia because we're going to work through these technical difficulties. My background is in data analytics. It's not in technology, but we're going to work it out. Okay. We are going to work it out from Instagram all the way to LinkedIn, all the way to all the platforms. Curnesia, can you hear me well?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to scream as loud as I can without hurting
Yeah.
everybody else's ears. But
I
I
may
want
be on
to
the
say,
camera very closely, but I'm we gonna work this out. That's
all
what we're
right,
gonna
y'all.
do.
And you know what? Those of you guys who are listening in on YouTube, LinkedIn, or Facebook, let us know how the sound is. If the sound is jacked up, then we may pause. We may, if you guys can hear us, put a thumbs up. Let us know what you guys' sound sounds like. I know my folks on Instagram are good, so we're gonna go unless we need to pause, do something different. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So first of all, how is it going? How is your week going?
Things are going well. We're having a great, productive week. We're heavy on the self-care.
Heavy
So
on the
things are
self
going
care.
good.
I wouldn't expect anything less from a mental health professional.
Well, you might. You just never know. It depends on the day.
I hear you. I hear you. Tell us about it because here's the thing: work and play. I realize is the vision, but the
Hmm.
process of getting there, whoo, baby,
Right.
it's been a whole thing. So, what is it like being in your journey? How many months now in your entrepreneurial journey,
Oh, it's a little over a year now.
girl? Tell us more. How's it been?
It has its up and downs, you know. Some days are good, some days are bad, some days I just don't know. The day is leading me. Some days I lead the day. But the important thing is that I show up every time with my expectations and my intentions. And the
Right.
best that I can be able to do is meet whatever it is that's ahead of me with what I've set to be my intention and expectation. So some
Yeah.
days I win, some days I lose in total transparency, but I am so grateful that I am in the position that I'm in and I am creating the life that I want no matter what comes with it.
As we all are, right?
Yeah.
As we all are. So, those of you guys who are just joining and tuning in on either the replay or live with us, this is Miss Curnesia Bogans, and she is the LMFT that I love the most. I get a lot of my tips, not even just relationship advice, but just self care advice from her. She was on episode 89 of the Work and Play podcast, and we talked about your journey from HR to entrepreneurship, right? From HR
Hmm.
to therapy, so to speak. And all of the steps that you took to get there. What I love the most about your story is that it was strategic and that you had emotional, physical, relationship support. So for
Yeah.
those of you guys who are joining, I can go in like literally in all day on Miss Carnesia, but would you please introduce yourself to the folks so we can go ahead into it, get into it?
Sure. So I am Curnesia Bogans. I am a licensed marriage and family therapist. I am also CEO and owner of In Session Candles. And yeah, I see individual, couple, as well as groups for therapy. And my specialty lies in anxiety, life transitions, self identity, and self work and self care.
Yeah. Heavy on the heavy on the life transition,
Yeah,
right? So
absolutely.
I want to jump in there. You have, if those of you guys who haven't seen episode 88, I highly encourage you guys check it out. Um,
90.
what was that?
It was episode 90.
Oh, check it out. Check it out. Episode 90. That means I have to change the thumbnail as well.
Okay.
So if y'all saw it, Carnesia took the step from corporate HR, right? And you
Hmm.
decided to go strategically and get the credentials that you needed to go into therapy, which was more of a calling. But
Right.
I got a question for you, blanket statement. And you can answer this both from a professional standpoint and a personal standpoint. To leap or not to leap? That is the question. That is the question. What are your thoughts on folks taking the leap?
I think it can be scary. I think it can be very fearful. But the thing about it is, once you decide to do it, you realize that the biggest part of it is the fear, is the choice and the decision to actually do it. So I'm saying all day, leap, because once you're able to conquer or at least have enough courage to actually do the step, that's the most difficult and challenging part, is making the decision. So once that's made, then go for it.
Let's go. Now, this might not be differentiated for you. Tell me if it is. But I'm curious if your guidance as a professional is more prescription. You know how you do your daily prescriptions? Is
Mm-hmm.
this more like prescription based? Like, this is what you need to do, this is what you need to do? Or does your personal experience, would your personal experience more so inform, like if you had a client who's making that jump, they're transitioning from their 9 to 5 into entrepreneurship, would your advice be different, or would it be more prescribed from a professional perspective?
I think for me, I would have more focused on what the intent, feelings, and emotions are surrounding the client.
Mm.
So it wouldn't necessarily be about me, or I don't give advice. I do give recommendations, but I feel like my job as a therapist is to support the person. So I always use this analogy um, with therapy to say that therapy is the GPS, the client is the driver, and I serve as the passenger. So with them being the driver, I would be more interested in knowing, what are your feelings around it? What is the fear? Slowing down those thoughts and those emotions that they may feel towards it that may create anxiety. And for us to explore, okay, what's the reality of the holdup? What's holding you back? Even for me as a therapist, I have a therapist, and that was something that I did a lot of work with my therapist, and just really getting to the bottom of what the actual fear was. Like, what am I afraid of? And when you slow down those thoughts and you really get into the reality of what your fear is or what's causing that anxiety, you realize that it's not as big or it's not as major as you may think that it is, because you're having that opportunity to check into the reality of what's really driving the anxiety, or what's holding you up from doing what it is that you need to do. So,
Yes, 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 yes. Part of the corporate exit blueprint that I have is a 6-week program, and it's really
hmm
helping folks get the tactical and the strategic steps of leaving their 9 to 5 and going into entrepreneurship. A major piece, and I thank you for adding like your thoughts, because your story, as well as other healthcare professional, mental health professionals, have informed this step of the process, which is healing. Right?
yeah,
When you talk about healing. I believe that, like, shoot, from my personal experience, when I started going to therapy, we not only dug into like the fear of me leaving, because I had a therapist when I was leaving corporate, but then as I continued to do therapy, I started digging back into stuff that happened in childhood.
exactly.
My thing, and the thing I love about the difference between us is there's a difference between a coach support and a therapist support.
hmm
So I'm curious what your thoughts are around timing, right? I got to a point in my healing journey where I was like, okay, it's time to stop digging and it's time to start planting, right?
Right.
What's your thoughts on that process, whether it be timing or major milestones in healing? What's your thoughts on like the timing around this healing portion, or preparing yourself mentally, or even just looking back and saying, hey, let me heal from the fact that I left? What are your
hmm So for me personally, I think that mine was more so related to healing, and my healing drove the need for me to go ahead and make that leap, because as I
thoughts?
mentioned on the episode, it took me 7 years to make the decision. And so I started therapy maybe a year or two before I say effective therapy, but that's another story. I started effective
Yeah,
therapy.
that is
Um,
really
huh?
that really is a thing.
Yeah,
Like
because it's the
effective
difference between
therapy.
therapy and effective therapy, but that's a whole nother show. So
Okay.
I started effective therapy probably a year or two before I left. And I was noticing that everything around me started to change, that healing started to come in a way that was best serving me. And it was just like that job was the last little bit that was hanging over me that reminded me of a space that I was no longer in. And it got to the point where emotionally, mentally, physically, like I just couldn't be in that space anymore because that was connected to a version of me that no longer served me. So for me, the healing took place first, and it drove me into a place where it's like, okay, it's time. You have no choice but to get out of here. Like
Mm.
you've been here 7 years. You can be able to fight it. You can be able to manage it. You can be able to suppress it as long as you could. But now this portion of your healing is also connected to what you do. And even as I said on the show, on the episode, I felt like a hypocrite because it's like I'm helping people to show up in their most authentic and as their best selves. And I'm not that, or I don't have that version of me when I'm coming to a space that no longer serves me. So I think my healing actually made the decision for me, and it held me to a certain level of accountability that I couldn't ignore anymore.
That's good. That's really, really
Yeah.
good. I think that as much as I know about the process, putting healing, so it sounds like your therapeutic process
Hmm.
sparked your mindset shift, which
Yeah.
then went through, helped you go through the process of taking action.
Right.
That's huge. Now, we don't have to get into your specific journey on effective therapy, but part of the course is like, okay, how do you identify the proper therapist? One thing that
Hmm.
I actually don't agree with is that you have to find a therapist who makes you feel good, or a therapist who you feel like you're friends, or it can be a homegirl conversation. I actually
Mm-mm.
don't think that's effective therapy. And what I think is effective, coming from my social work background, has more to do with skills and
Right.
objectivity. So, how do you differentiate effective therapy versus ineffective therapy, and how can someone spot that ahead of time?
So that can be a challenging question, especially for a lot of people that have never gone to therapy before, because it is this question of, okay, what do I look for? How do I know that they're right? And then we can even get caught up in the logistics of it to say, okay, well, it's a black therapist, so I guess this is what it's supposed to be like. But
Right.
no, we have to hold black therapists just as accountable as any other therapist, right? So I believe that effective therapy is when you are aligned with what the person's skills are, like you said, and also you're seeing changes, even if they're small. You're seeing changes, and you're processing things, and your way of thinking and holding space for your thoughts begin to change. Now, will
Mm.
that happen on the first and second session? Maybe, maybe not. But if you are sitting with the therapist and you see no type of effective change, or no type of effective change in your thinking, or even that space to be created for you to explore those thoughts, and that continues, or there's a continuation after that session that holds you accountable for sitting in your work, for doing your own work, for acknowledging that there is work to do, then
Yeah.
I don't believe that that's effective therapy if you don't have that. So that's what it looks like for me, like having this extra layer that you see in the session, but it also gives you a certain level of accountability after the session to continue what's been started, for you to be able to do that with yourself. And also, you feeling the need to show up for that next session to say, I thought about this while we were talking about that. It's a continuation of what started or initiated by a trained and skilled professional.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. And to just to tie up that point, how can someone identify that in the first conversation, or do you suggest 3 or 4 sessions, or something like that before they actually secure their therapist?
I think it's up to the individual as well, because sometimes you can feel an automatic connection with that therapist even if you don't see change yet. You can feel that automatic connection with the therapist, but sometimes if it's just your gut screaming at you saying, this ain't it, sis, this ain't it, bruh, this just ain't it, then follow that and make
Mm.
sure you're checking in with yourself to be like, okay, like, is this really not it? Or is it that this is just so different from what I'm used to that I'm not allowing it to be it? So,
Ooh, that's that right there.
and I think that's a big thing too, because a lot of
Yeah.
times we depend on other things that we've picked up along the way to be able to manage our trauma, and we're so used to having this false sense of control over
Mhm.
ourselves and our emotions that
Mhm.
we think I don't need this. Like, I can just talk to this person, I can talk to that person, or I can talk to myself, or I can use religion and blah blah blah. So I think a lot of times when we let go and we're open to the process, we're open enough to be able to say, this is something new, this is something different. Let me be able to genuinely sit in the
Yeah.
experience and see what comes out of it. And I think when we do that and we don't have that gut feeling that says, ooh, this ain't it, then I think we can be able to identify it better.
Listen, I'm squirming in my seat right now because that was me. I'm
Yeah.
gonna tell you. I'm literally gonna tell you my experience because I had a new therapist. We were getting into a new relationship, and we
Mm-hmm.
were probably like three sessions in. We were working on boundaries, right? And one
Mm-hmm.
of the things that she was helping me understand was when I was in corporate America, I was just telling people my business, right?
Okay.
And not only was I telling people my business, I was going to HR thinking I was going to get some type of like gratification because I'm thinking, oh, this is a place where I can get some healing. And I was really mistaken. We could talk about that next. But I was thinking, as she was explaining to me about boundaries and helping me understand how to identify my own, she was describing her own boundaries. Because, there's
Mm.
a part of therapy where you get a chance to share just a little bit about you while keeping the client, what is it? The client, patient, no, the patient doctor confidentiality, right?
Uh-huh.
So she's walking me through her boundaries, and I hear myself being like, so I don't, just
Mm.
because you got boundaries, that don't. And I got so irritated with her because I'm just like, just because you got boundaries don't make you better than me. I was going through
Okay.
all of the thoughts,
Mm-hmm.
judgmental thoughts, rejecting what she was telling me. And when I sat down with myself, I said, why are you mad at this woman? Why are you feeling some type of way?
Mm-hmm.
Because you don't know, you don't have an idea of what boundaries actually looks like for you because you've never had boundaries because you've
Mm.
never had someone talk to you like this before. And I said, you know what? You got to stop judging this lady. You got to sit down and instead of envying her because she's got boundaries, use that as an example and be like, okay,
Yeah.
so how can I use that in my professional life as an entrepreneur to establish business and personal relationships? Like this has literally been, that was literally my thing. Like you just said that, like if it makes you feel uncomfortable,
Mm-hmm.
if not uncomfortable in the sense that your gut is screaming, get out of here, I'm not safe, but it's just like it was making me mad. I was
Yeah.
irritated. I was envious. I felt judgmental. I had to recognize that.
Yeah.
And you literally just hit the nail on the head. At least for me, those of y'all who have been in therapy, if you've never experienced that before, first of all, just if you have, just put like you are not alone. So I know I'm not alone. Carnegie,
Yeah.
for you, what has been your experience kind of taking a look at yourself?
Say that
Taking
one more time. I can't hear you. I couldn't
I
hear you when you said that.
I said when it comes to your healing journey, what
Mm-hmm.
has been an example of you taking ownership of your own healing?
Of my own healing. What has been an example of me taking ownership of my own healing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, just being more aware has been a big thing for me. I have always been this floater of emotions and feelings. I go from one emotion to another emotion. I can suppress this emotion by sitting in another emotion that feels better. I've always been this floater of emotions. So for me, I started to recognize with the help of a therapist that I gotta feel. I got to slow it down. And when I don't, that shows up in me feeling like something is off, something is wrong, and I don't even feel comfortable in what it is that I'm trying to suppress. So I think for me, that accountability came through me being more aware of the reality of what I was feeling, how I was feeling it, and acknowledging, no, you really are pissed off, like you're not okay. Or no, you really are sad. That really did hurt you. Like, you're not fine. So I think mine came with a lot of awareness and being honest with myself of that awareness and slowing down to sit in what it was that I was becoming aware with.
Self-awareness is key, y'all.
Yeah.
Shout out to Chisalone 12. I think I said that right. Shout out. I got your comment in the chat. Thumbs up. Thank you so much for being here. So on the topic of your personal journey, your professional journey, going from HR to therapist.
Mm-hmm.
How would you describe the difference in the day in the life? What was your old life like versus your new life?
Girl. The difference. Oh my gosh. I would be so honest with saying that sometimes it feels unreal to have been in a space where so much of my thoughts and my feelings and my emotions were projected onto me from other people that just would not hold themselves accountable for whatever they felt or whatever emotions they felt. To be accountable for my own self in a way that best serves me and not to have that form of projection has been so rewarding. Sometimes it just gets to the point where I'm like, did I really live my life like that? Did I really sit in all of these things that I have struggled with for 12 years? So for me, it's just been very rewarding. It has been very, it's been an enlightening experience to know that a lot of the things that I accepted, I just refuse to accept now. Like whether it's personal, whether it's with business, like a lot of things that boundaries, right? Creating and establishing those boundaries, whether they're personal or even business wise, has been major. But my day looks totally different. Totally different.
And what I hear is the biggest difference is ownership of time.
Yeah.
Ownership of time, freedom to do what you want to do. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Those of y'all who are here and joining us on Instagram, you can feel free to join us on YouTube and Facebook. We're almost out of here, but listen, you can always tune in here on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube just by coming in and clicking the link in my bio. But I have one more question for you.
Okay.
So the healing part I think is essential. It's really essential. And I'm so glad you came onto the podcast to talk about that perspective, because like we are always thinking about, okay, so at a grand, like just a high level, I'm like, are you ready to leave your corporate job? Yeah, I got like five months saved up, you know what I mean, of income. And that's not the only part of the process that we have to consider.
Right.
So that's why I was glad that you came on as a professional to share the importance of therapy and healing mentally, but then also your own professional journey of going into entrepreneurship. A core part of entrepreneurship, though, is going into the marketplace and adding value by solving problems, by understanding what problems need to be solved, and then identifying what your niche is. So for you as an LMFT now, what problems do you see yourself solving on a regular basis that contributes to solving a problem in the marketplace, whether it be for marriages or for single people?
Say that one more time. I am so sorry, but you are competing with the grass man that is cutting the grass at 7:33 at night. And I'm like,
listen, he's trying to get that cool
say it
air.
one more time.
It's okay. He's trying to get that cool air. He's trying to do the line, not when the sun is up high. He's like, let me go out there in the afternoon because this is not happening. I'm not even mad at the man. I was asking you about the problems that you solve. Now that you are an LMFT full time and an entrepreneur in that, right? Like this is not nonprofit work. What are the problems that you solve on a regular basis, on a daily basis, that you see really truly add value to the marketplace?
Well, one big thing is just accepting and creating space for people to sit in and be aware of their authentic selves. So many times we show up as who we feel the situation requires, that we don't allow ourselves to show up or even discover our authentic selves. And another thing too is with pandemic, with life transitions, with things that have happened in our lives, we rarely understand or acknowledge that we're a different person. So we can't show up in the same ways that we have, because there are certain things that have taken place along the way that requires a different version of us. So a lot of the work that I do and that I create space for with my clients is to slow down the thoughts and to really explore who it is that they are, what that looks like, and how can they continuously on a daily basis show up in an authentic version of themselves.
Mhm.
Another layer to that too is a lot of times we can't separate what we do from who we are. And I think that we, for so long as a culture, have identified ourselves through the work that we do. But there's a there's a need, and it's such a great sense of importance to separate the two, because the more you learn about who you are, it creates room and space for what you do to be the reward
Mhm.
towards what or who it is that you are. So
Mhm.
I do create a lot of space for separating those two. We don't have to define ourselves by what we do, but who we are can be able to create space for what we do and be the reward of us finding ourselves and knowing ourselves and being aware of who we are.
That's going to be extremely necessary for folks as they transition, as they
Right,
work up their way up the corporate ladder,
right,
all of those things. Because the first question that you typically ask them when you meet them is, "Hey, what do you do?" And so it's ingrained in us to start with that. And honestly, one thing that I understand now more than ever is when I'm working with a client who is a full-time corporate professional, right? And
mm-hmm,
then they start making that transition. They start thinking about it, building their business, building their core offer. There's this dissonance between like,
yeah,
well, I'm not really an entrepreneur and I'm not really a corporate professional. Like they trying to disown that piece. Do you know what I mean?
right,
But there's so much value in describing yourself in other ways than
mm-hmm,
what you do. Right. And that's the
yeah,
part that I think we all have to understand, that you don't have to be ashamed that you're not a full time entrepreneur.
right,
And you don't have to be ashamed that you are a corporate professional. Like your journey is much more than the thing that you do on a regular basis.
absolutely.
So that makes so much sense.
And even in addition to that, too, think about life transitions. Even as an entrepreneur, sometimes we've only identified ourselves as mothers. Sometimes we've only identified ourselves as students.
Mhm.
Sometimes we've only identified ourselves in these different roles that we play in life. But when those things are over, let's say you get laid off or your child is graduating from high school or college, what are you left with then? Who it is that you are isn't defined by what you do at that point, because it requires a different version of you at that point. So I think even in that, like the discovery of who we are outside of what we do or the roles that we play every day is so important. And it can also create space to see, okay, with my level of entrepreneurship, okay, what is it that's the most important, that can be able to separate what
Mhm.
it is that I've always done, how I've defined myself, and can truly be the authentic version of what I do, so that when I do place that inside of the work that I do, my work is also as authentic as I am.
Yes, I'm following 100%. Those of you guys who are still tuning in, I know you're welcome. This was actually a really, really, really dope conversation. And I'm so glad we had a chance to talk about entrepreneurship from a mental health perspective.
Yeah,
If y'all are still interested in working with Curnesia, y'all just, all you just got to reach out to her, right?
right.
So, Curnesia, let us know, how can folks connect with you if they're interested in your services, and what is it that you are offering in this space right now?
Okay, so I am offering individual therapy. I'm not accepting couple clients at this time. Be on the lookout for openings. You can be able to go on a waiting list, but right now I'm only seeing individuals. I am looking to start some group work in the spring, so be on the lookout for that. I've also created a candle company that supports the work that we do, that intangible work that we do. So there's things of boundaries, self-care, self-love that I've created, and also identifying different smells and scents that go along with anxiety that may help and heal and add to the feeling of depression. I've also created sense that speaks to that too. So on Facebook as well as Instagram, I am C Bogans MFT. My website is www.cbogans.com. I offer free 15-minute consultations for us to kind of talk, get to know each other, to see what you're looking for, and to also see how therapy can be able to support you in your needs and what it is that you're looking for.
Yes, indeed. If you guys are interested in her services, all you got to do is click the link in the description. It's going to be somewhere here. So if you're catching this on a replay, you can click the link in the description and check out everything that you need to know. Curnesia, thank you so
No
much,
problem.
girl. All right, we gonna call it that. Y'all gonna have to see us on the replay. Y'all got behind the scenes clips from earlier, but this one's gonna be really behind the scenes. Again, thank you guys for watching. Thank y'all for listening as well, whoever's
Yeah.
listening. And we will see y'all on the flip side. Until next time, peace out.
Bye.